She later goes on to recall one of her previous experiences on this trip during the summertime, and she says that she is glad this is not the season for bulls, she said, looking sideways, and the good Lord made his snakes to curl up and sleep in the winter. A pleasure I don't see no two-headed snake coming around that tree where it came once. It took a while to get by him back in the summer. This lets the reader know how many trips she's actually taken, because she has gone through at least one summer, one fall, and partway through the winter taking this trip, which means that whoever is sick is still sick, if not visioned her at this point. Again in the story, it says, in the paved city, it was Christmas time. There were red and green electric lights strung in crisscross everywhere, and all turned in the daytime. Old Phoenix would have been lost if she had not trusted her eyesight and depended on her feet to know where to take her. This leads the reader to believe again that her memory fails her whenever she has to use it too much, such as she can't remember directions, so she most likely just relies on her other senses, such as her touch, as in this case, where she just lets her feet guide her. This could also be used to enforce the fact that her son might, or her grandson, might be deceased, because she wouldn't really rely on her eyes to tell her that. She might just use her memory and have a vision of him, such as what she did earlier when she had the vision of the boy bringing her the cake. And even later, when it is asked of her to tell her about the boy's condition, or when the nurse in the hospital asks her about the boy's condition, their conversation goes like this. "Now, how is the boy?" asked the nurse. Old Phoenix did not speak. "I said, how is the boy?" asked the nurse. But Phoenix only waited and stared straight ahead, her face very solemn and withdrawn into rigidity. "Is his throat any better?" asked the nurse. Aunt Phoenix, don't you hear me? Is your grandson's throat any better since the last time you came here for medicine?" With her hands on her knees, the old woman waited, silent, erect, and motionless, just as if she were in armor. Now this leads the reader to believe that she has truly gone a little crazy in her head, because this entire trip has been for her grandson, as is revealed, and she can't even talk about him. She's not excited to tell the nurse, "Oh, he's getting better, he's doing great." And it says that she is silent, erect, and motionless, which means that she probably seems quite solemn and sad, which means the nurse might have reminded her of something that she didn't want to think about, such as her grandson dying. And this whole trip might just to be because she can't get over it, or it's ingrained in her memory that she does this to help her grandson, even when her grandson is no longer there with her. Now, the nurse continues to go on and says, "You mustn't take up our time this way, Aunt Phoenix," the nurse said. "Tell us quickly about your grandson and get it over. He isn't dead, is he?" At last there came a flicker and a flame of comprehension across her face, and she spoke. "My grandson, it was my memory had left me. There I sat and forgot why I made my long trip." "Forgot?" the nurse frowned. "After you came so far?" Then Phoenix was like an old woman begging a dignified forgiveness for waking up frightened in the night. "I never did go to school. I was too old at the surrender," she said in a soft voice. "I'm an old woman without an education. It was my memory failed me. My little grandson, he is just the same, and I forgot it in the coming." Now, the first thing we notice is that when the nurse said he isn't dead, that is what gives a moment of recognition in Phoenix's face. That's what sets her off. Now, it seems almost like the word dead might have triggered her in the fact of her coming back, maybe like a hard reset on her memory of her trying to just get that out, because she probably doesn't want to think about her grandson's death, because it's revealed in the story that she was the only one that she had left. And then they go on to say that, or Phoenix goes on to say that she had forgotten why she made the long trip. That might also make us believe that she was remembering that her grandson is deceased and that she has no need to make the trip anymore. So why did she do it? She must ask herself. And then when the nurse begins to talk about her son, or her grandson, she begins to remember, oh, I'm here for my grandson. And she forgets that he's dead yet again, where her memory fails her. And then, as she does say that her memory fails her, that leads us to believe again that she's still a little crazy and she just has no clue, because she said, my little grandson, he is just the same, and I forgot it in coming. Well, saying that he is just the same might imply that he's alive and well, but it also might imply that he's as sickly or deceased as she remembers, which, given her memory capability, is probably not very far back. And then she continues to go on and say, then she gave a tap with her cane on the floor. This is what come to me to do. She said, I'm going to the store to buy my child a little windmill they sells, made out of paper. He going to find it hard to believe there's such a thing in the world. I'll march myself back where he waiting, holding it straight up in this hand. Well, this also this might have nothing to do with it, but I thought it was interesting that she wants to get him a little paper windmill that goes in circles. Now this is interesting because since it goes in circles, it's almost similar to what Phoenix does, where she just continuously makes this trip but never really gets anywhere because she can't remember her grandson. She can't remember that he's deceased, potentially. And it's just a constant process for her that never ends, similar to a windmill spinning. And an additional point, why would she leave her young grandson alone at the house all day, especially if he's sick? Shouldn't she try to find somebody to help her? Or maybe even look after him? And she never mentions anywhere in the story anybody looking after him? All of these reasons lead, at least me, the reader, to believe that her grandson is no longer with her, and she's just going around trying to repeat a process that she no longer has the mental capacity to remember that she doesn't have to do anymore.